Hello there, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, taking a look at Sulphur Springs. Very interesting map, very unique layout, shall we say. Got this sort of diagonal spawn pattern here. You can see it's diametrically opposed. Is that the right word? I think I meant to say diagonally opposed here. You can see where all these players are spawning in the different realms here. And we can definitely have some really interesting incongruities on this map, and I love to see it. But let's meet our players spawning in the southern half of the map. Our red leader, Dr. Kronos. Very cool name. Sounds like a evil villain for sure. Some sort of like Marvel superhero, supervillain type name. Very excited to see what Dr. Kronos is going to bring to the front line for our blue team spawning in the northwestern corner. We have Big Fonzie. Now, we've seen Big Fonzie in a recent game, actually. Let me wipe this map really quick. A lot of those been popping up in the videos recently. Big Fonzie, we did see a game with them pretty recently. They have a very interesting style. They're very often one to go for a lot of ticks, a lot of pawns, a lot of those really, really light early game units, and then somehow manage to get as much value as possible out of them really late into the game. You can see at 36 true skill, very, very high for this lobby here, well and above the rankings of their teammates. So definitely going to be interesting to see what strategies come out here. Now, one of the other interesting things about this map is that along the, I guess, the northern and the eastern border here, yeah, northern and eastern border, there's this water lane. So it's usually contested by one, but sometimes two people. So let's take a look at what the naval players for each team are doing. For the blue team, our green player, Kulawi, or Kulawi, almost sounds Hawaiian, doesn't it? I don't think that's the flag of Hawaii. Anyway, Kulawi building a naval lab, obviously. We've got the metal extractors down. We're building some of these tidal generators. Tidal generators up to 20 so that it's quite nice to go for that tidal power. It's going to be very efficient. And it looks like our composition here, submarines. Looks like we're going for submarines first. I don't hate it. I think that's pretty often a very good idea. Definitely can get a lot of value out here. For the red team, our naval player is Massim CZ. Massim? We'll call you Massim. Or Mason. Anyway, Massim CZ does not have a lab out yet. There we are. Looks like we were flipping this around, so it was pointing in the right direction here. Massim CZ going for that lab as well, and it is two Armada players, so we are going to have a perfect mirror matchup there. Now, the other interesting part of this map is this spot right over here, which you can see is contested in kind of a weird way. There's this player right here that has a front line on this spot, but they also kind of have to deal with this spot here, so sort of weird to have to deal with both of those. It's a very early bomber. 2 minutes and 42-second bomber. We don't have a scout or anything for this, so we're just bombing it raw. Hoping to find some sort of a thing to bomb with here. We do have an air lab here for Rotak, a blue player, so we could definitely see a fighter pumped out to take down this bomber, but it looks like that is not the plan here. We're just going to bomb this early game economy into smithereens. For what it's worth, you know, I suppose this bomber can do work. I don't know if it'll be worth it, though, all things considered, because that does mean that the team is going to get anti-aircraft turrets up and in place much earlier than you would normally expect them. This bomber also not really doing as much as I would like to see it do. Yeah, we can see the anti-air turret is already up and running, so I don't know. You might actually be giving up a bit of an advantage by bombing this early. You can definitely get a bomber out a whole lot quicker than some of those bombing tutorials that I've explained previously. But yeah, you're definitely gonna have a lot more anti-air defenses to contend with later on. Bomber here coming in for a landing in enemy territory. I mean, I'm looking for what that can do. We have another bomber here. Sort of similar story, right? The anti-air defenses are now up. We do have fighters out as well. That's very nice to see. This bomber is just going in, trying to wreck any of this economy that it can. Doesn't manage to snipe that metal extractor. Don't think I like it. Don't think I like it at all. I think I'd love to see a few scouts preceding the bomber, and I think I'd like to see two or four bombers produced here and sent out in batches of 2 in order to harass individual players a little bit more. Do manage to get a metal extractor there. That's quite nice. If we can land a bombing run right here on these, that would be phenomenal, but it does get shot down by this hardened anti-air missile battery, the SAM. Surface-to-air missile, I believe, is what that stands for, at least in the real world. And this one, maybe that's just the name of the system. It's just called SAM, short for SAMTHEW. Samatthew. Samuel Athew. Not sure why I'm keep trying to add like a Thew attachment to it there. Matthew sort of attachment. Very nice. Dr. Kronos sending a construction bot up here to build an exploiter, the armed metal extractor. That's a very good idea here, since this is likely to be contested by a couple of robots later on in the match, so I think that's actually a really, really phenomenal idea to build a armed exploiter up there. It just takes care of the defense and the metal extractor all in one. Big wombo combo here. Johanna has decided to completely ignore that. Instead, we're just going to focus on posturing at the front line. We don't have any Rocketeers out here, though, so we can't break down the light laser defenses that are being set up here by Kronos, so I think that's probably the best move that we could go for at this point. We have metal, we have energy, we just don't have the build power at the moment. We're really worried about the base defense right now. I'm not worried enough to get 2 constructors on it, but we're at least thinking about it. Would love to see this metal extractor taken here. Let's check in on our northern players here. We have Urishio. It sounds like Oreo almost, but Urishio here. With a mixture of units. That's interesting. I wonder where those came from. Maybe they were handed over by another player. Somebody in the backline trying to help out. We do get this round on Tengji's commander, and the commander does go down. The entire army for this light blue player here does go with the commander. Humbly to the grave. Harshly to the grave, probably more likely. And so the pink forces move in to protect it. I think Urishio can move in a little bit faster here. Yeah, we're going to see too much army if we wait too long, so I think we need to move this commander in, try and eat up as much of this as possible, and then D-gun whatever we can't. Important not to lose your own commander here, right? Or at the very least get some resbots out here, so if you do lose your commander, it's not, you know, all hope isn't lost. Yeah, let's move in here. I think we need to move in a little bit quicker here. You can see tons and tons of ticks brought out by Big Fonzie. Bajestaten. Wow, I can't believe I did that on the first try. Bajestaten with a ton of light laser defenses, well aware of Fonzie's tactics, and knows to go for a whole lot of these light defenses. Doesn't look like we've had any sort of naval collisions here. Navy player here, mostly just looking at, like, economy. Yeah, we don't have any units, as far as I can tell. I would love to see one of these constructors sent forward here. We should definitely be reclaiming these metal extractors. These are going to give you a much, much more pronounced advantage over the naval arena. So I think that's a bit of a misplay there. Our green player going for a composition at this point. We do have destroyers hitting the field, some submarines. Looks like we already have some dolphins here. Very, very nicely done. Making sure that we have all of our bases covered. Urishio, looks like they managed to eat up this commander. Looks like this resurrection bot here by Big Fonzie also helped eat up all that metal. That is very nicely done. Are we going to see a T2 production here, or are we just... Wow, this is a lot of construction bots here. Really impressive that he can manage all that. Look at this insane queue. We have 92 ticks, followed by 56 pawns, followed by 11 of these bots. I think when Big Fonzie queues things, he just clicks a couple times randomly and calls it a day. I don't know, maybe it's measured out, precisely crafted. I'm not so sure though. A little bit of engagement here, but mostly just Big Fonzie making sure to posture correctly, get this unit into position, try and find any weaknesses, any exploitable loopholes here. I do see that there are a few. Doesn't look like this laser turret. Yeah, I can basically cover this edge, but I'm betting you could probably sneak some pawns around, or some ticks rather, sneak them into the space. I don't know if the ticks can cross this water, actually. I would hope that they could, but I'm not 100% certain. Now at this point, let me clear the map here. There is some action happening down here. That player's getting pushed in, but I really want to focus on this bombing run that's coming out here now. And this is exactly what you're compromising when you're... Oh, interesting. One-man shadow caught out here. Decides to move in a straight line backwards. Oh no, it takes the full brunt of a lot of those bombers. I guess we're going to commit to trying to bomb this commander. It's really difficult to do. I mean, commanders are mobile, right? So they're really difficult to line up for a proper bombing run. But what I wanted to say about that was that we are sort of going to be fighting against anti-air defenses that are already up because of the earlier bombing runs here. The commander does go down, so I guess that's quite nice. A little bit of help from Yellow's forces to bring that commander down in this northern sector. But what I'm really interested here is Dr. Kronos, who is now pushed in the light blue player Jahan, 81 down here on the southern side of the map. Really, really nicely done. Looks like the commander went down at one point. I do see there was a commander trade here, but it looks like that went in the favor of the blue team. Bombers come out to just devastate all of this economy, as much of it as they can anyway. We do see light anti-aircraft turrets, so Those bombers are getting tickled to death very slowly. They can still take a few hits, though, so they're going to come back around for another bombing run. The factory being blasted down by some thugs to accompany these bombers, which is very nice. I think these bombers can definitely do a lot more damage to these wind turbines here, maybe these wind turbines over here. I think that's definitely a very good target. This isn't bad either, though. We do manage to find a bunch of rocketeers that are unmicroed, so those actually will be quite scuffed up by those bombing runs here. And we see, interestingly, we see this player here controlling this lime green army has actually tapped out already. Wow, I think that's a very early GG. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Definitely very early GG on that player's behalf. I hope to see somebody reclaim this. There was such a nice front here, too. This is completely exposed. We could be pushing in on this. We could be pressuring these players, and that lime green player here has just completely abandoned any hope of that. Very, very unfortunate to see. Now some bombers for the blue team have found a lot of these units that were unmicroed and are just going to bomb these into oblivion. Nicely done. I suppose if they're going to clump up like this, you might as well take advantage of it. Drop a few bombs on their head. They do hurt after all. As you can see, every one of these bombs that lands takes away about 15, maybe 20% of the health. Yeah, so, I mean, slowly, very slowly, this force is eventually going to be whittled down. The final thug at 5% health here, walking in a straight line, which is no problem for these bombers to hit. Surprisingly, this has been completely countered. Now, light blue has just taken the base of his supporter here, this teammate to the slight north of him, which is kind of interesting. That light blue player is just sort of moving up the coast there. The naval player has expanded quite nicely. I'm really liking this naval control. I think he's probably expecting... What is the name here? Kulawai was probably expecting to encounter quite a bit more resistance than we've actually found here. So far, we have 0 units. We have T2 lab up, but we have no T2 production. So things are not looking great here. We don't have any build turrets either. Masm CZ, I'm not sure what they're doing. Very, very questionable here. I'm not sure what to make of this. We went straight for the T2 lab, but then we didn't produce anything out of it. Now we're producing it at the T1 lab. We're building LSAWs, which I suppose is a decent counter here. You definitely lay down quite a lot of fire, but of course the T2 lab goes down because it's surrounded and there's no units to defend it. We don't even have any defensive structures or anything like that either, so it's just, it really is, these things are just pushing it as much as they like here. LSAW is doing good work here to bust down these dolphins, and eventually I think they will clean them up. This dolphin is wedged in between these constructors, so the LSAWs are hesitant to fire on it. But now some submarines are out, and you're going to need something to counteract those. We definitely need to see some reclaim here. This is just a really bad position for Masm CZ overall. I think maybe this player might be brand spanking new to the Navy field here, so yeah, we might want to see some refinement on this build. Go check out my Navy guide. I'll probably make a new one of those pretty soon. Try and help some players out here who may be pretty new to the Navy theater. Yeah, building LSAWs to counter submarines, not going to work, unfortunately. Commander in a lot of trouble too. Commander gets caught by these submarines, and the commander also has no way to fight against them, but does take a tremendous amount of damage from torpedoes. So don't walk in a straight line. Definitely walk in a zigzag sort of a pattern. Otherwise, these torpedoes are going to sink deep into your commander's flesh. Trying to repair the commander here now. Yeah, our green player here, Kulawai, definitely knows what he's going for. Snipes the commander. And yeah, that player is now out of the game. So the Navy battle has been completely won in the first engagement of the game. Quite nicely done. Quite a good job there by Kulawai, expanding as quickly as you can. Very, very nicely done. Unfortunate for our I guess Dark Salmon player. But wow, look at this army here. We do have the blue forces, light and dark, pushing forward here. Pushing these aggravators back as well. A couple of these grunts managed to push by and they actually find these geothermal plants that have been providing a lot of power here to the hot pink forces, the hot pink aggravators. Sounds like maybe a roller derby team. Hot pink aggravators coming to your town. Looks like the ticks can cross the water here, so that's really good to know. Well, really good for the blue player anyway. Going to be really unfortunate for the enemies who now have to contend with a swarm of ticks. We all know how effective those tick waves can be. If you haven't seen that last video, the Fear of the Tick video, definitely go check that one out. That was quite a banger. Very, very nice to see. Torpedo bombers here to actually mop up the remaining forces of Kulawai, which is nice, but definitely way too late. At this point, red has completely pushed forward here. A lot of res bots bringing back a lot of these forces to reinforce the front lines. I think that's very nice. Relieves the pressure that you need in order to produce units for the front lines, right? You can just you know, supply your front line with units from the battlefield as opposed to producing. That being said, red's production has been completely shut off. So a complete counterattack has occurred. Dr. Kronos is now left without a production facility. This isn't before we've seen some T2 bots being produced here, though. We do have some Fiends out. We see a couple of these Twitchers as well, which are quite nice. They can even rebuild on the front line here. They can build these Fiends, and it looks like indeed that is what they're going to do. Very, very nicely done here. I think that's a great option. Once you lose your T2 production, you can always go into those Fiend productions off those Twitchers. One of the most powerful combat engineers in the game, I would argue, is that Twitcher who can make those Fiends, which we all know and hate. Like gunships out here to deal with some stouts. They're not great, but there's definitely enough of them to handle this. It's just going to take a while. Yeah, you can see every time they fire, it's like a couple % off of each one of these stouts. Off of specifically one of these stouts at a time, and that's why it takes so long. The stouts can technically fire back also, which is pretty funny. I mean, imagine being in a plane and a tank shoots you, right? You'd imagine that'd be pretty brutal. Luckily, those gunships are actually immune to such attacks, so very nicely done here. Now, this is a good idea. The beige player has eaten up all the production, all the facilities and whatnot for Mass MSC, just in order to fund their own expansion. I think that's probably a good idea, considering that they are now going to be in charge of harassing the naval forces for this team here. Yeah, don't hate that one bit. Take down this naval constructor. That's quite nice. We do have these torpedo bombers moving forward here, and they're going to start dismantling a lot of the defenses that have been set in place here. They find an anti-air turret, and a couple of these torpedoes will quickly blast that to smithereens. Commander is found here. Oh, but we're not targeting it. At least not most of us. Yeah, I'd love to see us blast down this commander here. I think that might be an excellent pick. Yep, very nice. Oh, interesting. The torpedo bombers, the water is too thin here for these torpedo bombers. That is quite unfortunate. That almost feels like a failure of map design there. It looks like they managed to land eventually. Huh, I wonder what was going on there. I guess the water is just too thin right around here for the torpedo bombers. That is really unfortunate. Yeah, I think that's definitely a map design issue rather than a player issue there. But anyways, the commander does eventually go down. Some of these gunships also harassing, but I still don't think there's enough presence to reclaim that commander, so it might just stop the forward expansion a little bit. Bit of a stalemate here with Big Fonzie. Pretty much expect that. This player is very strong, and so I wouldn't expect them to give up an inch. Also holding a tremendous army down here. We have loads of these res bots ready to run in and eat up whatever these ticks can devour, or can destroy, I should say. The res bots devour, the ticks just destroy. T2 bot lab has been produced here on the front lines for Dr. Kronos, not worrying about rebuilding all this back here. Well, actually, we are going to resurrect all of it. Probably mostly interested in these metal extractors and less so in these bot labs or medium tanks here. But still, this is plenty of grave robbers here to resurrect all of this in no time. As far as energy production that goes, though, we are a little bit shy, especially considering we are going up to these T2 metal extractors, which use quite a lot of energy. So I'd love to see a fusion reactor planted down, especially at this Cortex economy, which is a little bit cheaper here. This is a huge gaping hole in this entire, I mean, for both teams here, right? Like, anybody could push through here. I guess there's a heavy laser turret, but that's not going to deter too much now that we're up to T2. The tick wave moves forward, and you can see these Sheldons doing their best to eradicate these ticks, but Big Fonzie doing a great job of splitting off 1 or 2 ticks, just to make sure that these Sheldons are properly distracted and they don't ruin anything here. The res bots are brought forward too. The res bots are absolutely critical to this mission because they can eat up whatever these ticks do end up destroying, which is quite nice. In this case, it's going to be a whole base worth of economy. These res bots are moving in on the hunt. Yeah, these ticks are so brutal. I'm totally a fan of this type of strategy. This is like, I mean, this is what ticks are made for, right? You can just absolutely get into every nook and cranny of your enemy's face and completely devastate them. The resbot's in a little bit of trouble here. I'd love to see them start getting to work. Yep, very nicely done. A few of them still getting, well, one of them still hard at work here, eating up this bot lab, eating up whatever it can, really. These Sheldons, luckily, were more interested in shooting at the pawns, so it did manage to pull back quite a lot of metal. But not before all the ticks and pawns ravaged this entire half of the base back here, half of the map over here. So now this player right here, looks like Big Fonzie's commander went down. I'm not sure what killed that exactly, but the commander did go down, wiping away all of this static defense. But Bajasetan, we'll call you Bass. Bass here, taking a nice little lead, making sure to set up some proxy defenses, but I really think it'd be a lot better to just push forward with the troops here. We could claim a lot of ground that's completely undefended by Big Fonzie. Speaking of Big Fonzie, let's take a look at what's going on over here. Yeah, so we have 3 bot labs, each producing a lot of ticks. Do these have individual queues? Yeah, we're making like a lot of ticks, a single crossbow, and a single Lazarus, the Resurreclaim bot here, which is quite nice. This one still has this crazy, ridiculous queue of like 92, 56, 11, 14, yeah, all that sort of stuff. We do have T2 constructors out now too, so we can start working on these T2 projects, T2 buildings here. We can see economy scaling happening here for the green player, and overall I think I like the position here for the blue team quite a bit more than the red team. I was going to speed up here, but I do see another tick wave moving through, and they're so quick that I'd hate to miss a single thing. Blue fighters now tearing down some of these bombers as well, so that is quite nice. Clearing up those skyways. Ooh, this hurts though. Yeah, the ticks are pretty bad against grunts. Grunts are definitely really good against those ticks because their lasers, they fire pretty often, which is kind of the perfect counter to those ticks. Now we have defenses by Gratella. This is great. We have the Great Wall built here with a bunch of laser turrets. Yeah, that's very discouraging to push into with a whole host of ticks. Gratello has learned from his the misfortunes of the other commanders around him. The wreckage that those ticks can rot. The ticks here get into the back line and again ravage the Dr. Kronos' rear base, but that's not really where production is coming out of. Production is much more focused on this front line up here, so I think Dr. Kronos is probably okay with losing a little bit of production back there. Now this is starting to hurt though, because if these ticks end up going into the going too far into the back line here, they're going to start getting these metal extractors, which of course is going to be quite a pain. Fighter on fighter action here. We see some high winds being shot down by their little brothers, the Valiants. I guess more like their little cousins, right? Very nicely done. Very, very nicely done by Horatio to get that air lab out and start making some fighters to clear the airspace. You can see Big Fonzie now resorting to just using these tick waves basically to harass whatever he can. There's definitely a path here where you can harass from the back. You can basically walk around all this static defense and harass these agitators down. Once you've done that, you can sort of just swarm through here however you like. There's not really... Those are the heavy hitters, right? Those are what's going to tear apart this tick army substantially. Something pushed through over here. I can't tell exactly what, but I see the wreckage of a lot of grunts and a lot of constructor vehicles here. So it looks like maybe we're, yeah, upgrading to the T2 metal extractors and we got overrun a little bit here. No naval congestion, and I think that's definitely something that the Navy player here at Kulaway should be the Navy player, right? I say it because there should be two, but no, there's no Navy player whatsoever. Anyway, Kulaway, I think definitely has the opportunity here to go much more heavily into amphibious unit production and start sieging from the back here. Just get an amphibious lab somewhere out here in the deeper part of the ocean. Not sure why it started drawing over there. Get an amphibious lab somewhere over here. I mean, hell, you might even be able to hide it over here somewhere. But anyway, get an amphibious lab out, start spamming out a bunch of tanks, and then just flood them into the mainland, and you're going to have a really, really nice time. I think this game could be over really quick. Now, the only reason it isn't over, I think, is because of Red here, Dr. Kronos, doing a phenomenal job of expanding and making sure that this map is still somewhat balanced as far as the amount of terrain that every player controls. So very nicely done on that front here. We are expanding. We're continuing to upgrade the metal extractors. So let's take a look at the economy here. We do have an economy of 91 metal to 1,300 energy compared to, well, there's no other player that's expanded quite as tremendously, but I guess I'm going to compare to the blue player here, the Big Fonzie. The Big Fonzie. Jumping between about 90 to 150. I think it's probably because of resbots. So let's call it 100. And then 3,000 energy production. So quite nice, pretty much balanced there on that front. But the more of these ticks do get through and start harassing these things, the worse this is going to get for the red player here. Now that being said, these armed exploiters are very, very nice for dealing with these constant tick aggressions. So I think that's an excellent choice to go for those. Definitely a good strategic decision. Make sure that you don't have to put that static defense everywhere. But there are still vulnerabilities, right? You can still see how ticks could run around and then harass from this side of the map. They really can just go anywhere here. We also have random units left and right here just to shoot at random things. We see a single crossbow in the back line here harassing these T2 constructors. That's quite nice. Yeah, it's going to shoot them down. That's quite painful. In the end, you're just losing units passively here, and I don't know if Gratella notices. Looks like the commander is going to go deal with that. Finally realized something wasn't right here. Very nicely done. I hear laser fire. Indeed, mammoths are moving forward. Oh, not mammoths, sorry, sumos. I think it's a great option here. Sumos, super tanky, high damage, very nice option. Hounds can definitely kite these. They can move away and just continue shelling them. But of course, if Sheldons move in, then you sort of have the Hounds countered as well. Love the little dynamics between the interactions of different units, right? That's such a cool aspect of this game. There's no like one unit hard counters another. It's more like one composition hard counters another, which means that you have to be really dynamic in the way that you play. One of the many things that I love about Bar. Tell me what you think, what you love about Bar. All your favorite things. I'd love to hear it down in the comments section. Sumon's under quite a bit of fire here, though. Definitely hurting. But the Sheldons are making sure that the Hounds are paying for it with their lives. And eventually I think these Hounds are going to go down. Yeah, we see one fall, another goes down. The last Hound in quite a bit of trouble. Kiting as it can, still. A little bit of a problem there. And yeah, Dr. Kronos definitely being a imminent threat here to the side of the blue team here, the southern side anyway. Huge clash of units here. Tons of Fiends clashing against Thugs, and hard to even tell what's going on. The Fiends do get the air lab, which is quite nice. The Thugs are still pushed forward. A commander goes down. I couldn't even tell whose that was. Looks like it was Urishio's commander. Does go down over here. Luckily, it doesn't wipe away the entirety of the army and the whole facility here. That's quite nice. But yeah, that was a dangerous clash here. Big Fonzie now committed to making sprinters. That's nice. That's like the evolution of the pawn. If we were talking in Pokemon, it goes like tick, pawn, sprinter. If you're going for raiding units anyway. But yeah, these can be really dangerous, especially to these Sheldon, who they can just jump right on top of, and they get that nice surround bonus too, because you can make so many of them. So yeah, very nicely done by Fonzie, and I think this is ultimately going to be a victory for the blue team. This engagement turning very positively for the blue team, but there's an imminent threat encroaching on their southern border here. I think we need to see a column bomb out at this point, because that's a lot of firepower. There's a lot of sumos there. There's a lot of Sheldons. We see the radars and the jammer bots, also very nice. Fiends being pumped out one by one as well. And even some resurrection. Very nice by Dr. Kronos. Phenomenally played here. Definitely making sure to keep his team in the game. We see a couple of these paladins here to harass this side, but that is not really the ship that you need. You definitely need a missile cruiser. Dreadnought's not terrible either. It's definitely got a pretty wide range, you can see. Nice option for sieging, but definitely not going to reach quite far enough. I think amphibious units is definitely where you want to go. Bash, I mean, has set up a forward production facility after being completely ravaged in the backline. Decided, why not just move all the production forward? And so indeed, after swarms and swarms of double laser turrets, the Twin Guard, we've decided to stop fortifying this position and just go for some more economy building. Nicely done, I would say. Now the aggression has not stopped here by the yellow player, Bayrol. And the Fiends actually jump on top of T2 production, and that hurts quite a lot. Light laser turrets aren't terrible against Fiends, but obviously they're not a great choice here. Constructor turrets doing their very best to keep everything alive here. But it is sort of a hopeless gambit, as most of it has already been killed. Now, what on earth happened to clear out this mess? I'm looking for a commander body. I'm looking for something to tell me why Red's entire army has disappeared. Was it these fat boys, maybe? Yeah, I don't see it. Whatever it was has wiped away the entirety of Red's army here. There was so much more, and suddenly it's been reduced quite harshly. Yeah, I don't see it. Unfortunate I didn't catch that. I would have loved to see what actually went down there. These fat boys being tremendously difficult for the red team to push into here. So much firepower all at once. Oh, they do commit quite a lot of friendly fire though, so that definitely hurts. But yeah, these sprinters now crashing in on all sides. We can see these armed exploiters actually a huge pain. They fire a really high energy laser, and they also have these little missiles that they can fire out as well. Those are anti-ground and anti-air missiles as well, so if you're flying any bombers or anything over one of these, they do a tiny amount of AoE damage, and those are definitely going to hurt. Fat boys, happy to shell away from a distance though. Snipers, just as well, going to be putting shots in against this army, as many as they can. The ticks move forward, which means that these snipers are going to have vision, you're going to have visual data to figure out exactly where they should be shooting, which is quite nice. A couple of shots wasted here, but this little composition of fat boys and snipers, they don't fire often, but when they do, there are no more units afterwards. Snipers alone can devastate an army, but the fat boys really give it that AoE touch that just makes anything pushing into here. Yeah, they regret it. they regret joining that army. They wish they'd joined the other team. Wish that they would be resurrected here. I don't know if these bots actually have wishes, but I like to imagine that they do. We finally see some missile cruisers out now, and they are bombing the wrong spot. They're bombing a metal extractor here, but I think they definitely should be going for the production. We see some of these T3 hovercraft here, the T2 lunkheads, T3 lunkheads rather. And they're pretty good, but they're not good enough to go up against a dreadnought. You can see they cost 1,150 metal versus the 3,300, almost, well, yeah, more than 3 times the cost destroyer here, and yeah, we're not looking too great on the front of killing the Navy. We did get the missile ship, so I guess that's nice. There's going to be no more barraging, but these tanks are still coming out fairly quickly too. So I think the defensive lead is going to fall quickly into Screaming's control. Screaming, that's a pretty funny name. Haven't gotten to them yet this cast. Junos are finally out, and that's a great counter to the pawn harassment that we've seen all game. Always an excellent option here. We do see more of these missile ships harassing down Bass's base here, his forward operations base. A lot of them are blowing up these light laser turret defenses over here. I always forget just how far these things can reach. Yeah, look at the siege radius on that thing. You can really just siege miles and miles out, which is really, really devastating. But yeah, I think that's a great use of the Navy here. Again, you take the Navy lead in order to build a ground lead, right? Like the Navy lead means nothing if it's just the Navy lead. You need to transition to some sort of way to harass the ground-based units, whether it's a capital ship so you can artillery shell from far, far away, which is usually the most common one we see. I always encourage people to go for those amphibious labs though, because I think that's the most solid way to build up an actual army that you can actually use. Resbots on the front lines here, eating up all of the metal left after this battle, and that is a great job done by Big Fonzie. You can always tell how experienced a player is by how much they emphasize that reclaim value, because it really is what turns the tide of a lot of these games. If we take a look at exactly how much metal is here, yeah, we can see almost 5,000 metal, 4 or 5,000 metal-ish left over in Rex here, and I mean more is laying down as we speak, right? All these bots are contributing to this massive metal field, and so it's definitely worth fighting over. I'd love to see all of these res bots getting to work, eating all this delicious stuff up. Yeah, we're thinking about it. We are pausing these for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, I think that's really, really a nice option here. These arbiters are actually exposed quite a bit here. Very, very toilet paper, tissue paper strength units, as far as health goes anyway, right? They fall apart easily is what I'm trying to say. That was probably a weird analogy to use for that, but I think you get what I'm saying. They fall apart really, really quickly, and so as soon as those sprinters jump on top of them, they cave pretty quickly. Purple and this kind of aquamarine player here have both built up a substantial army, although the aquamarine, we are on T2 now, so that's very nice. We need to see a T2 economy shift here. You guys know how I feel about these T1 solar panels. That's just, that's enough said here. We'll just look elsewhere. Rotac with a T2 air lab and a T2 bot lab as well. So I'd love to see some fighters produced. It's always a pretty relatively cheap thing that you can constantly produce out of your air lab, just so you're always getting value out of that. Otherwise, you might as well reclaim it if you're not using it, right? Fiends trying their best, but the snipers, the fat boys, all of it. Yeah, they don't mess around. They're not here to play games. They're here to crush you into the dirt from which you came, into the metal spot from which you came. Sheldon army here, sort of clustered up, and it looks like most of them can't fire because they're too clustered. That is unfortunate. I'd love to see those spread out a little bit. Just a little bit of microbe madness happening there. Looks like the blue army is unrelenting though, and so this wave of blue is pushing forward, and the reclaim bots are finally hard at work here. You can see just how important those are. Every single soldier that lays to rest on this front line, you get back folded into the nice economy here. And you can see that the metal infrastructure for Big Fonzie is completely maxed out. So whatever he doesn't even use is just going to be sent back to the team. And so indeed, a lot of these players are probably coasting on the extra metal that Big Fonzie is accessing. A lot of these hovercraft out now to contest the sea. It's the first time that the sea player has actually been contested basically this entire match. Since they eliminated that player down south, there's basically been no reason for them to push forward here. So mostly economic expansion. We have a lot of reactors out, but we do not have a lot of energy converters out. We have one energy converter, so I definitely think we need to expand our economy quite a bit. We do have an amphibious lab. Oh, is that built right underneath? Huh. That was kind of illegal. Anyway. Yeah, why aren't we using this? This is phenomenal. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's not really where I was hoping to see that. I was hoping these would be, like, queued, I don't know, over here and then down this way. But I guess that'll work. As long as we're getting something out on the field, that'll be fine. A lot of bombers moving forward here. Again, targeting units, which is unfortunate to see. Yeah, we have this whole array of windmills right here. We have all of these solar panels. We have all of this energy converters, all of these construction turrets, all of this wonderful stuff, and absolutely zero fighter screen. I mean, there's a few fighters out here for Horatio, but yeah, like basically nothing. And instead, we are choosing to bomb down the units that can actually shoot back at us. Gratello definitely needs to take a lesson in bombing. And I think once they do that, they're going to be in a really, really good shape. Definitely a star player. Now, the player that was over here, the sort of dark brown player that was in this spot, looks like they've abandoned that position. They just gave up and left the game. Don't do that, guys. I mean, unless you got to go, right? You got external business. I get it. If you got a real life that you actually have to tend to, that's a different story. But yeah, if you're just like quitting just because you don't like the spot that you're in, probably better to change that, right? Change the spot that you're in, the position that you're in, rather than just quit the game. It's not really the kind of team playerness that we were looking for here. This army is sweeping forward. This is a devastating army. What just happened? Hold on. Pause the game. What just happened? I'm gonna try and figure this out. I'll be back to you as soon as I can tell you exactly what happened. Sorry about that. I've discovered some camera hotkeys here. Apparently we've entered the first-person view, and we can see what exactly is going on now. Yeah, we're looking at the battle from the first-person perspective. Why don't we roll with it for a second here? Very squirrely to control. I can sort of jump around, take a look at different things. I'm not sure what it's jumping me between here. Yeah, let's disable it. F5, free cam? No, hold on. Keys. F2. Oh, is it Alt F2? There we go. Okay. Apparently Alt F2 to change your camera mode there. Sorry about that, folks, but that was kind of an interesting look here. Yellow's commander going down. Getting right back into the action here right away. Big Fonzie takes care of that commander. It looks like this push is still well underway. There was a advanced fusion reactor even built up here, but that has long since exploded, wiping away everything on the front lines here for Dr. Kronos. Forced to fall back to the old labs in the back of the base here. Yeah, I'm reading the chat here. The Fat Boy Horde gonna be hard. Crippled red. Yeah, that is a tough army to beat. I agree. Fat boys, mammoths, and snipers, definitely very difficult composition to contend with, because they're all long range. You got the AoE, you've got the spike damage, right? Like the piercing damage, I guess you might call it. And then you've got the rapid fire single point damage from these mammoths in order to deal with any spam. This is a really tough composition in order to deal with. Armed exploiter here, doing a decent job of picking apart some of these snipers. But it will fall eventually to them. The hovercraft are actually moving forward on this northeastern side here. Yeah, we have depth charge launchers on these, so we can definitely take apart these Grim Reapers. Very nicely done. Yeah, suddenly this army is forced to retreat. This is a single battleship. I guess there's a paladin here as well for emotional support. But yeah, definitely not going to be able to handle this many lunkheads. Now we are up to 17,000 metal and lunkheads versus the 3,000 of a battleship, and I think the lunkheads definitely win that fight. Sumos being surrounded by ticks, that's not something you see very often. Sumos are typically a pretty good counter to the tick spam, but in this case, definitely not. I guess grunts would be a more ideal solution here. Sumos don't fire super fast, so it could be a problem if you don't have enough of them in numbers. Yeah, you can see the grunts do a much better job here, killing them with just 1 or 2 hits. This army down south is still looking tremendous. We have a bunch of archangels here to protect from aerial harassment. Very nicely done. The sumos continue to push forward, or rather the mammoths continue to push forward alongside the fat boys, their armada relatives. Very, very nicely done. Huge bomber wave coming out here. Tons and tons of bombers. We'll have to see if those find anything to destroy here. These bombers do not have a scout, so they're just hooked on a feeling. They're just hoping and praying. Okay, we're going for a single advanced metal extractor here, right next to a ton of advanced energy converters. Nice, very nice. Fighter screen could definitely be a bit thicker. I don't see the lab that produced these fighters. In fact, I don't see a single fighter lab. You know, I misspoke here. There is this one that I was talking about just a moment ago. It's actually been a couple minutes for me, because I had to do that nice little jump cut there, figure out what the hell happened with the camera. Let me know how you feel about that camera setting. I found it a little disorienting, but you know, maybe you liked it. Maybe I'll figure out how to control that in the future. Seems like there might be potential for it, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. We do see a few of these commandos built here. They're a stealthy paratrooper bot, and they're also radar jammed, which is quite nice. So there's like a tiny radius around them that's radar jammed, so they can actually build in enemy territory, and no one will be able to see it, which is pretty cool. Some bulls have broken through to the back line and are actually devastating some of Kulawai's forward operations here, the land-based operations. We have 2 T2 vehicle plants and 2 T1 vehicle plants. Definitely not enough build power here, or economy really. Yeah, 100 economy is definitely not enough in order to deal with all of this. Or to produce for all this, I guess I should say. Lunkhead's given in a good fight, but we do see some more T2 ships produced here. We see these battleships giving it their all. But definitely not enough. The battleships do both go down here, and the Lunkheads are now pushing forward against these T1 battleships, which are, or destroyers rather. Which does mean that they're definitely going to have their work cut out for them. Now another battleship finally makes it over to the fight here, and I think with that, these Lunkheads can finally be cleaned up, although it is just charging ahead. Not a care in the world. These Lunkheads don't fire very often. They also fire a really weird projectile, huh? Very, very odd. And this push is slowly making its way towards the southern borders here. A whole lot of agitators here. Also a lot of these archangels to shoot down any of these fighters that come over. Very nicely done. Mammoths stepping forward to bear the brunt of most of this harassment from these sumos, but these fat boys doing a tremendous job of softening up a lot of these targets. Oh, the agitators, they basically, or the arbiters rather, they completely miss the agitators. That's what they call me. Oh, they don't miss this time though. Huge hit. Yeah, a lot of those connect with that mammoth, and that's actually a nice hit for those arbiters. Looks like they'll find another one too. Every missile that they fire is a pretty devastating one. They definitely pack quite a punch. So did the Fat Boys, though, who are definitely going to keep pushing forward. That's their specialty. They march, and they march, and they march, and eventually you win the game. Now, blue is a little overwhelmed here. Wow, this is interesting. We've got a whole row of these fusion reactors. That seems slightly inefficient. Who am I to judge, though? We're just eating apart these tanks. That's a unpopular way of solving this problem, but it's definitely one way. I think a single Gauss cannon might have been a better idea. A single one of these pop-up Gauss batteries. Oh, the constructor's gone. I can't show you. The Pitbull is what it's called, in case you're curious. But I guess that works. Now, in the meantime, these are continuing to push forward here. The Fat Boy can indeed just step over these little defenses here, these puny defenses, clearing a nice little way for the units to follow. Yeah, these Arbiters, they just can't fire. They're not really meant to track units, right? They can siege places really nicely. But yeah, they can't track an army. I mean, this army is like basically as slow as it becomes here. The only army slower than this is like a juggernaut push, right? But yeah, they're not really gonna be able to hit anything here unless you stand still. And if you do stand still, then they're going to be devastating. So very nice hits as soon as the blue army stands still, and then as soon as they start moving, the Arbiters are suddenly worthless. Very interesting. Single Fat Boy manages to get into the back line here, tears apart a lot of this economy. We do have Archangels somewhere around here. It looks like a lot of them were damaged or destroyed. And eventually they make it forward, though, and the gunship will be taken down. Looks like the Fat Boy was brought low by another gunship over here. But with these Archangels in tow, I think this base will eventually fall. Now, Tengiz has definitely given it their all, pushed through to this middle of the map area. But I think these forces that are now suddenly routed in this direction to deal with this problem are going to be a great answer to this hot pink push. We have a lot of Mauser here to lay down suppressing fire. More like oppressing fire, for real. So much damage comes out of those Mausers. I haven't fanboyed about them recently, so I'll give you my spiel about them, but I think they're absolutely one of the best artillery units available. They're extremely cheap. They can shoot super far. You can mass produce them, and that also means that you can send them all over the map. You can disperse them into these nice big fields of fire and these nice big concave formations. And when you have enough of them, they just blast down basically anything. They have a slight AoE effect, which makes their damage lethal to big and small targets. Anything in between as well. And yeah, I mean, what more is there to say? It's literally the perfect unit in my mind. They can't shoot while moving. That's one big problem. Or at least they can't shoot 360 degrees while moving. Like these mammoths might be able to. Which I suppose is one drawback, but for that, you just include a couple lightning tanks, and you'll be all set. Shiva are finally out on the field, and with those, they're finally able to break this push that was coming forward. Some of these Fat Boys are really close to this hot pink base, though. And if these manage to land a single hit on any of these production facilities over here, Hot Pink's entire push here is going to be halted quite steadily. That boy's getting close. Yeah, it looks like one of them's thinking about it. This Pulsar has definitely been the play of the game here. 8 confirmed kills, and I bet almost all of them are Fat Boys. Yep, down it goes. Very nicely done. Very good hold here from the yellow player. Getting those units out as soon as they possibly could. Very nicely done. Orange has actually decided to step back into the waters. That's quite nice to see. We are seeing finally another Navy player return to the battlefield for the red team. Quite nice here, as these lunkheads have been doing a decent amount of work, but I think eventually they're going to be outpaced by the dreadnoughts here, or rather by the battleships here. What's the name of those? Oh yeah, they are the dreadnoughts. Look at that. Subconsciously casting perfectly now. Built into my genes. Yeah, we see no economic expansion here for green, though, which is a bit frightening. I think we absolutely need to see a ton more of these naval reactors pop down. We need to see more energy converters. We just need to see more. Otherwise, we're going to fall to complacency, and things are not going to look good. We do have a Navy lab out here, and it looks like the Screaming player has just realized that as well. And so, indeed, we're going to be starting up some units. Grim Reapers instead of construction vehicles. Construction ships, rather. I suppose we're going to try and resurrect a lot of this army right here, but that's going to be quite difficult. That is very, very firmly under green control here. We're all, the green player, by the way, the dark green player, resurrecting a lot of these units in order to put them back on the front line, so that it's very nicely done. Kind of an interesting reaction, or interaction here. But yeah, the hovercraft, when they go down, they do sink into the water, allowing these submarines, these resurrection submarines, to actually refloat them again. Very interesting indeed. Dreadnought's under quite a bit of fire, looking very scuffed up. But I think the undead army will be able to hold with the reinforcements that continually pop up from the grave. We could even see more of these resurrection subs. I wouldn't hate to see it. It allows this push to essentially continue indefinitely. Because none of these units are really going to be destroyed by the fire here. They're just going to sink. Yep. Either way, getting those resurrection subs out for either player is going to be quite nice. Eventually, this push down south was shut down. Looks like a lot of the units were mopped up along the way. Very nicely done, but it does leave this nice big open wasteland. Looks like Dr. Kronos' single exploiter over here has managed to stay alive this entire game. That's quite nice. But yeah, Bayral has now actually expanded and become quite a powerful force. A powerhouse. I was trying to say a powerhouse and a powerful force at the same time. A power horse, I think, is what I what I ended up with. There's a new slogan for you. The Power Horse. It's probably what they called cars in the early days, right? The Electric Horse. Nice little army of snipers here. We definitely need to see radar bots and jammer bots, which we do see from a different teammate, but I would love to see Purple building their own, just to make sure that that army can be distributed nicely. Otherwise, yeah, these turrets are going to shoot against you, and that's quite a pain. Luckily, only takes a few sniper shots in order to bring down one of those turrets. Oh, the catapults are going to hurt, though. Yeah, that is pretty devastating. Those catapult rockets are really dangerous. Take a look at that. Yeah, catapult rocket, DPS, the burst of 9,000 damage. Yeah, that hurts pretty bad. We are 49 minutes into this game, and I cannot tell you who's winning. Red team has done a phenomenal job of holding out. Much, much better than I could have imagined here. We're actually doing phenomenally. Yeah, really nicely done by especially Yellow, who's managed to take over this entire northern section of the map and hold it firmly. I think if Blue had pushed through this and completely wiped away all of these defenses right here, we definitely would be in a much better position. But because Big Fonzie has not managed to do that, I think that actually the Yellow team, I say the Yellow team, the Red team, has held on quite nicely here. Razorbacks are hitting the field. Very cool. Absolutely love the Razorback. He stands against the odds. Oh, and then he falls against the odds. Love those Razorbacks. Just one of my favorite unit designs in this whole game here. We see some dragons out now. Being harassed by a screamer, it looks like, but they just shrug it off. They don't really care. Mercury, apparently. So what if a anti-air laser is firing at us? So what? Hover tank production has not stopped by any means. So this is actually looking quite dangerous. Yeah, we now see these resurrection subs working for the tan player here. Capital ship has hit the field though, and it's going to start sieging these things from way far out. Yeah, you can see it does a pretty good amount of damage with every single one of its hits. Definitely a great option for dealing with this problem before it even begins, right? The Mauser are rolling forward, and to nobody's surprise, they're absolutely crushing it. Phenomenal unit for a phenomenal game. I love the conjoined aerial effort here. We have the fighters helping out the dragons, making sure that no enemy fighters are going to harass those down. Mauser devastating all of these resbots. Absolutely wonderful. Not just the resbots though, devastating anything that is bold enough to try and stand in their way. Although I am not sure I would use them quite like this as like a siege unit, or a assault unit rather. That's a little bit ballsy for my taste, but still very, very nice push here. At the very least, keeping this yellow player contained on the southern front. Tremendous amount of progress has been made on the front lines, although this is basically just all anti-air turrets now. There is a sniper out, which is quite nice, I suppose. There's a continuous row of snipers being pushed forward here. They each get to shoot once and then they're disposed of, which is, you know, a little wasteful probably. But I guess it's that one shot that matters. The one shot, one opportunity. Oh, now this is cheeky. We've got a lot of stealth tanks moving around here. Does the blue team see this? There's no counter-intrusion system, no radar, nothing like that. I believe these are stealth too, so they wouldn't even show up on radar. Take a look at one of these bad boys. Stealth tank indeed. So yeah, they would actually slip right past a radar, and so this might actually find something worth a lot of value. They could definitely take down this advanced geothermal, they could take down these fusions. It'd be hard for them to get much of anywhere else. Yeah, I'm looking for places there where they could do the most damage. I suppose just right around here would do pretty much, yeah, it'd be pretty damaging as well, just to take out a lot of these fusion reactors. But it looks like they're just going to target the heart of Blue's economy here, or at least one part of it. Tons more of these fusion reactors coming up. I'm not sure why we're not switching to advanced fusion reactors. Seems like we might as well, now that our economy is up to almost 400 metal per tick. Seems like that'd be worth it. But I guess, what do I know? I, a lowly 25 true skill, trying to understand the designs of a 25. And we're here. It's time to unfold. It's time to unfold. Go ahead. It's time to do it. Let's see those cannons at work. Yep. Yep. Any day now. No, they'll do it. They're a little shy sometimes. Just give them a second. Yeah, don't worry. I know there's other things going on. I know there's a whole battle going on out there. They're selected. Oh, and there they go. They finally pop out and start firing. Oh my god. Oh, just once though. Well, they finally blow up a lot of that production there. Fusion reactors, not feeling great. The fusion reactors' explosions just kill most of them anyway, so... yeah, I didn't like that one bit. I did not like that. That could have been so much worse for the blue team there. That Dr. Kronos definitely could have had a bit of a game shifter of an attack right there, and instead it sort of just fizzled out. That's really unfortunate to see. Really happy to see this orange player expanding though, trying to get a bit of a naval lead back. We're starting up a T2 naval economy, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely a huge commendation to the orange player for sticking in there and making sure to continue to the end. Razorback, pretty good. And just to walk all the way around back here, and there's actually nothing to stop it. Oh, well, it gets a little shy sometimes though. There we go. Finds the advanced... Oh, that hurts. It finds the advanced geothermal plant, blows it up right as a ton of these constructor aircraft flew over it. Ooh, and it blew him right out of the sky. That's gotta hurt. Yeah, that is a pain. Look at this wall of sumos marching along. They waddle along to defend their eastern border. More of those stealth tanks were caught over here, and they were shut down quite nicely. Very nicely done. Titan is moving forward, and I think that'll be definitely enough here to break this entire fortification zone. There's also some Sheldons working at it from another side, and I think as soon as this falls, the blue team is going to feel a lot more comfortable pushing into this this red fortification here. Dragon's moving forward as well, working on some of these defenses, slight laser turrets. These are what keep the pawns out, right? These are the anti-pawn defenses, and with these gone, I think the pawns are going to have a nice day running right along through the back lane here. Again, if you haven't seen the pawn video, why you should fear the pawn, go check that one out. It's absolutely hilarious. Fusion reactor goes down. Advanced fusion reactors will be next. Ooh, and that's most of the red and yellow base wiped out there. Yeah, basically all of the production was in this one clustered little sector right here, and it was wiped away by a couple of dragons. That hit really hurts pretty bad. Very nicely done by, who was that there? Rotak? Very nicely done by Rotak, getting those dragons into the one weak spot there, available for them to harass. Snuck right past the place where the defenses were the weakest. This single Mercury was the one tower trying to defend all that, but there was actually no air force. There was no, there was nothing. Resbots are brought in here to try and piece back the one standing advanced fusion reactor wreckage. They're going to do their best. All of these defenses are slowly falling from the siege here. Sheldon's picking them apart one by one. Nicely done. A single persecutor has been left alive here, though. And it looks like the that's it. The radar and radar jammer bot have been taken down, so that's why these have no vision over here. That explains their lack of eagerness. Now this is a really impressive force, but it's not an offensive one. Like, we can't move this across the map very quickly, and you'd have to go through so much T3 that I don't think it'd make it. It's a lot of sumos with some catapults for fire support, and then a juggernaut to lead the charge here. Catapults mostly just hitting their own juggernaut. It's pretty funny to see. Huge contingent of Razorbacks over here, 5 of them in tangent, and that is definitely enough to break a lot of defensive lines. Some Karganeth recruited to the front lines to try and deal with this, but those Razorbacks, I mean, they're a bot built for combat. They're a warrior through and through. And so I think these Razorbacks are going to melt that away quite quickly. Indeed they do. What's left over here, a couple of consoles trying their best, but not going to get much done. Dr. Kronos moving the commander forward here, trying to get a nice little lineup on these, and I think he actually has it. Yep, one more. Nicely done. Mitigating damage here. Commander is still spotted by one of these Razorbacks, though, so it has to disengage. That does mean that 2 of these Razorbacks are now going to continue pushing forward. The Juggernaut went down. How did the Juggernaut fall? I'm not sure what killed that Juggernaut. Yeah, I have no idea how that thing fell. It didn't seem like there was enough there. Oh, it was the Razorbacks. Sorry, I thought those purples were those purple Razorbacks were for the other team. No, it must have been those purple Razorbacks took down the Juggernaut. Very nicely done. Razorback getting a little choked up over here. Not sure what to do. Yeah, the Grave Robber's trying to pull it apart. Pull him down. They eventually get the Razorback down. But not before it does a tremendous amount of damage here. More dragons moving in. There is another Screamer set up. Or a Screamer set up. I believe the old one was a Mercury. But still, yeah, that is not enough air defense. And again, these dragons are just going to come back in and blow up the exact same spot. We see some bombers coming out here too. Where are they targeting? Oh, they're just flying around. They're just hanging out. Some dreadnoughts have actually been built here. This orange player has not been AFK. Definitely been working to build that economy, but I think there's just not enough left on the land. Yeah, as yellow and red's base have been ravaged. Control B comms. I'm not sure what Control B does. Maybe they mean Control D. Self-destruct them. We're destroying the last production facility here for streaming. We've got a few. Whoa. All right. Yeah, it looks like they tap in. Thought that was a bomber that I missed, but no. The red team decides to tap in at this point. I think that's a very honorable decision, right? They realize that they're completely surrounded on all sides, and as their navy is falling, they decide that that is going to be the game. Sorry about those camera controls mid-game, but that was quite interesting. Don't forget to leave a like down below if you liked it, or dislike, whatever you'd like to do. Just interact somehow. That really helps me out. But I hope you had a wonderful time looking at this video. I'd really encourage you to subscribe if you like this kind of content. Try to post daily, 2 times a day. And stay tuned for more. I will see you in the next video.